This program is brought to you by UCKG.
Coming up on tonight's show, being unemployed. How long should a person wait to find the best job opportunity? Is the wait worth it? Or should you accept whatever comes your way? Our live guest tonight has an amazing testimony to tell. Stay tuned to see how they change their life around.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's Finding Answers. We have a very interesting topic tonight. Tonight's topic is waiting on God's timing. And, you know, we're all in the rush to get answers to things, right? We want things now. We don't want to wait and wait and wait. But the thing is, with God, God has a timing for everything. The Bible actually talks about a time for everything. And maybe you are waiting for things to happen. You are eager for an answer, maybe to a prayer, maybe to an answer for a job. Maybe you are waiting for someone to give you an answer regarding, you know, whether you go out with them or not. But you are so impatient. How many times have we lost opportunities? How many times did we miss out on things because we rush to get answers? You know, in God's time, it's perfect. And this is the program for tonight. Waiting on God's timing. His timing is perfect. It happens in the right time. You know, if you speak to many of our guests, if you've seen the real life stories that we have on this program, you'll find that things happen in the right time. And my guest for this evening is no different. You're going to hear his story later on in the program. Before we speak with Pastor Carlos, who is joining me as usual on the program, let's have a look at a real life testimony. Have a look at this.
I wanted to be financially independent, but it seemed like even though I had an okay job, it wasn't enough to do the things, not just that I needed to do, but that I wanted to do. And so I decided to start my own business.
I was looking for a job, but I couldn't find. Even applying for the simplest job, they would refuse. I didn't know what to do. I was on GSA.
I was able to do that, and things were moving forward. However, it was a struggle. And as a result, I realized I was starting to get more debts or sink into debt.
To the point that I had to leave the place that I was living, and I was staying at someone's place, sleeping in a sofa in the living room.
Things were really tight. Even though orders would come, it wouldn't be enough to meet the monthly outgoings. And I was in a situation where I didn't know what to do.
I was applying for a job seeker's allowance, and even that, you know, I believed in such a great God, and still I was on job seeker's allowance.
Instead of the business adding to my life, it was like it was taken away, to the point that I felt to give up. It seemed like there was nothing I could do to turn the situation around. I knew that the business itself came in an impossible way. However, it was now becoming a burden, and I didn't know what to do to make the situation better.
When the campaign came, I took this as an opportunity to change the situation, because I knew if I called God's attention, He would answer me.
After the campaign, everything changed in such a dramatic way. I began to have so many orders that even in some cases I had to put some aside.
I wrote on my request, I asked God exactly what I wanted, the salary, the job, and after the campaign, God opened the door for me.
It seemed impossible for me to be financially independent and to have what I needed when I needed.
Now I have exactly what I asked for, the salary, even more, and the position.
I made more within 3 months than I did in a whole year put together of the previous year. Now things are completely different. I managed to clear off thousands and thousands in debts.
it's amazing because we ask for so small, but God gives us even what we don't expect.
I don't owe any of those that are involved with my business anything at all. Things have completely changed, and now for my business the future is very bright.
Welcome back to Finding Answers. Now with me tonight, as always, is Pastor Carlos. Good evening, Pastor Carlos.
Good evening, Pastor Michael. Good evening to all the viewers.
How are you?
Very fine, thank you. In the faith.
Yes, great. Tonight's program, Waiting on God's Timing. As I mentioned before, there are many people who are anxious for good news, anxious waiting on a result for something, but things, when they're delayed, some people think that God is actually not there for them, but actually His timing is in the right time.
Yes, and the Word of God says that we should not be anxious about anything, right? What we are going to eat, what we are going to wear, or whatever answer that the person, is in need of. But at the same time, Pastor Michael, our viewers, they have to understand that even though there is a time for everything, but it doesn't mean that, we should wait forever. Because our God is a God of answers. He's a God, of course, of results, of good results. And, if the person is, if that's the case, the person has been waiting for so long, we believe that the answer is coming very soon.
Yeah, in nature is a good example of how God works, because, a woman who becomes pregnant, for example, there is a right time for that child to be born. If it's born any earlier, then it's premature, right? There are complications with the baby. If it's over the 9 months, there are complications as well, right? So you see, the timing is right. Then the natural course is 9 months. Any earlier, there will be problems. Any later, there'll be problems. Certain fruits, right? You can't pick a certain fruit, before it is right, before it has its time. Some fruits are actually poisonous, right? If you pick it too early, it has to be at the right time. And of course, if you don't pick it at the right time, it goes off. It's rotten. It becomes sweet. So even in nature, which we believe that God, He created nature. Nature teaches us that there's a time for everything, Pastor Carlos.
Yes, definitely, there is. And our God, the God whom we serve, He's perfect. He understands, He knows everything. All that we have to do is to trust, right? And this is what many people, they fail to do, which is to trust. They want things to be done in their own time, and then they become anxious, and then things don't really happen according to, the way that is supposed to happen, right?
And as Pastor Carlos said, trust is the key word in this. Especially you, that you do believe there is a God. You believe there's something out there. You believe there is someone who is watching over us, keeping things in order. But maybe you've lost hope because you're not seeing things happen the way that you would like it. Or it doesn't happen at all. Completely, it doesn't happen. Anyway, we'd just like to tell you that, as I said, with faith in God, everything comes at the right time. What you need to do is just trust. Now, we're going to give you contact details. If you would like a prayer, if you would like to talk to someone right now, you can do so. You can pick up the phone, give one of our advisors a call now. They'll be waiting for your call. If you are anxious, if you aren't seeing an answer to any sort of issue, that could be work, it could be family, right? It could be with relationships, any area of your life where you're not seeing an answer yet. You're even doubting, does God exist? Is He there for me? I've believed in Him for so long, but where is He? Give us a call, pick up the phone now. The number's on the screen. It's 0207 686 6300. 0207 686 6300. You can tweet us at Find Answers TV. If you'd like to catch up on any past programs, we have a YouTube channel as always. You just search for Finding Answers TV and you can catch up and see past shows with real people, with real life stories, how they overcame life's problems through faith. All right, so tonight's topic is waiting on God's time. And after the break, you're going to meet my guest for this evening. If you want to find an answer to your problems, stay with us. We'll see you right after this break.
I was depressed for many years, but not anymore. And now it's my turn to help you lead a happier and healthier life.
Watch The Chrissy B Show on MyTV.
Melting polar ice caps, droughts, and rising sea levels. Climate change brings global disasters, and human activities are part of the problem. But people around the world are looking for ways to address the threat.
Watch Global 3000 on MyTV. The Day provides current news and affairs background analysis.
A growing number of migrants crossed the Serbian-Hungarian border.
There is no doubt about it.
Understand top stories, get professional expertise, statistics and video footage that will give a full insight into the world's most recent issues. Get information in its most complete form. Watch The Day on MyTV. Latest digital inventions, cyber concerns and much more uncovered in Shift. Everything you need to know about the modern digital world. Watch Shift on MyTV. Meet the amazing SUV Jaguar, the stylish Fiat, a vintage VW, a sporty Honda, and the Green Smart ED. Drive it, test it, know it. We have cars for any taste. Explore vehicles and their features with our weekly show. Watch Drive It on MyTV.
Welcome back to Finding Answers. Tonight's topic is waiting on God's timing. I'd like to introduce you to my guest for this evening. His name is Mccormick.
Pushed me for the rest of the week, so it's like a boost.
Things were really tight.
Today, the way I see myself is completely different.
Michael, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
Very well.
Now, you've had a story to tell, right? You have quite an interesting story to tell. It covers quite a large chunk of your life, right?
Yeah.
What we're going to do, we're going to speak about what you were facing, and then we're going to go back, because I want the viewers to actually find out from you how you started. So what was the problem that you were going through in terms of this subject, waiting on God's timing?
So the problem I was going through was that I was recently married. I was currently stuck at that time with quite a bit of debt, and I was trying for about a year to get new work and struggling. I wasn't getting anything. I was applying over and over again for one particular company that I really wanted to work for, constantly getting knocked back. I was trying very hard to try all sorts of different avenues, going through recruiters, going through LinkedIn, going through any sorts of avenues I could find to get a new job.
You wanted that specific
because
position?
I wanted to go up. I didn't want to stay in a position I was in, and I needed to go up.
Right.
Because obviously with my responsibilities of now taking care of a new wife, and with my wife who was just about to go back to university, all the household bills are going to come onto my name.
Right.
And without her income, we wasn't going to be able to do it by ourselves.
So she wasn't going to work part-time or anything
She
like that?
because her course is very intensive, so she was going to be full-time into university, and all household bills are going to be mine. So I said to myself, okay, I need to, step up, fight for a new position, try and get something that's going to be able to take care of this household and put her through university comfortably.
Mm-hmm. So looking for what were you doing before, or what was the current position you were in at that time?
At that time, I was a policy advisor in banking tax.
Okay.
And in short, that's it's a representative on behalf of UK banking sector in government issues related to tax. So
okay.
When the Chancellor stands up in the Houses of Parliament and says, okay, we're going to raise taxes on banks, it's my job to discuss that with banks and see where the right positioning is.
Now, was that quite a well-paying job?
It was a well-paying job.
It sounds though it's fancy.
Yeah, if I was not married or still single and living on my own, it would have been a fantastic salary to live on because, you know, a young man likes his food, a young man likes to go out and things like that. Gave me all of that.
Right.
But
as you said, now you're married.
Yeah, now you're married. Responsibilities change, income needs change, and so obviously I meant I had to go up a level.
So you mentioned that you were applying for this position.
Mm-hmm.
I take it obviously it's a jump in the pay rise.
Yeah, it was quite a significant jump in pay rise, and a very different role with a very prominent organisation, but. Every time I was going for it, I'd get to the final two, and they'd turn around and say, even though we liked you, on this occasion, you're not successful. Now that really knocked my confidence every single time I'd go.
How many times did you apply?
For that particular role, 5 times, or for that particular company rather, 5 times.
5 times?
5 times in the space of that year.
Really? Mm-hmm. And did you actually meet the same people?
No.
Or they're different people?
It was different roles, because this organisation, they've got very different roles all across the organisation. But I wanted that organisation.
Right.
And every time I'd go for a role that I'm interested in with them, I'd get in, and their interview process is very long. It's 3 stages. One of the stages is an actual written assessment where you have to sit down and answer case studies and all sorts of different things. I get through that. I get through the first face-to-face. And then I get to the last one, and they'd be like, you're not successful this time.
So you applied not once,
no.
Not 2, not 3, not 4.
But 5 times.
It even takes me long counting. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Now imagine what that does to the confidence as well.
So you got rejected the first time. Okay, I'll try again.
Mm-hmm.
You come to the final 2,
mm-hmm.
you get rejected again.
Yep.
This happens 5 times. What did you think about yourself?
I honestly thought there was something wrong with me. Like I would go home to my wife and say to her, I can't understand how this is happening. Before I was always getting non-stop calls, non-stop job offers all the time. Now when I really need it, nothing's happening.
Right.
And I said, okay, I'm taking their advice, because they always give you feedback at the end.
And then you take it on board and try again
I
next
took it on board seriously. I would try and practice with myself. I'd constantly go over my examples that they'd ask for. But every time I'd go back, it'd be the same thing.
Right.
You're not successful.
Yeah. Pastor Carlos, we see here, for us as pastors, we see sometimes a person they have the skills, right? There's nothing wrong with them. But when they make a decision to go for aim for something higher, something much greater in position, in terms of salary, they find an obstacle. It's like someone is standing in their way, blocking their ways.
Mm-hmm. And of course, for someone, I don't know how was his faith by then, but I assume, I believe that your faith wasn't, your relationship with God, how was it before? By that time that you were going through that problem.
When I first applied for those roles, my faith was on top of the mountains. I believed, okay, I'm going to go in and get this job because that's what God says. Uh-huh. But after 5 times of being rejected, it definitely makes you question, what am I doing wrong? Am I upsetting God in some way? Am I doing something wrong that he doesn't like? Or in some cases, it leads you to the question of, is God even listening to my prayers anymore?
Because of course, this affects, right? The self-esteem affects the person, and that's where we really need to have a very strong relationship with God, because situations like these that many people we face, not in terms of finances, but we face obstacles, we face challenges. And how many times that we face situations that we don't get what we what we determine, what we want at the first time, at the second time. But obviously, because our relationship with God is strong, we keep going.
Yeah.
Right? But I can imagine, what was going on with him.
And the thing is, as he said, he started to look inside himself. Your faith was strong, Michael. I mean, you knew God, right? And I'm sure while life was kind of coasting, you were comfortable, you were happy with your life, right? Things were okay. But when you applied for this job, and then you got rejected 1, 2, 3, 5 times, you started looking at yourself. Hold on a minute. You never thought there was anything wrong with you before.
No.
But then when you get rejection, you start thinking, hold on a minute. You start looking at yourself, and then the thought comes, God, are you punishing me? And how many people think that way? Are you testing me in this? Are you actually there, right? For a person to reach that point, they must have serious doubts. I'm not doubting your faith, but things kind of get really hard for you.
No, it does put pressure on.
You're asking questions and then you're not finding answers, right?
Exactly. It puts a lot of pressure on, and especially because of that, the circumstances I was in that time, with the fact that my wife was going to uni and we had a lot of bills and so on. I was becoming very, very anxious, and that anxiety mixed with the rejection of the job, mixed with the feelings that God's not really hearing my prayers in this particular moment in time for some reason that I can't seem to understand. Yeah. It really did hit me hard.
Now, very quickly, let's go back, because life wasn't very easy for you from a very young age, right? So you actually worked your way up. So tell us, how was your life before?
So very early on, from probably about 14 years old, I went through quite a sort of traumatic childhood sort of experiences, in the sense that I was kicked out of my mother's house when I was 14 and made homeless. And during that time, I had absolutely nothing. So bouncing around from friends to friends' houses, those who could put me up, and on some occasions even sleeping in parks.
Really?
And when I did finally get myself put into one of the youth hostels, and they put me on my benefit systems and things like that, there were still many times when you've got absolutely nothing. I mean, for 2 weeks at one period of time, I was living on black tea and rich tea biscuits. And that was what I was eating day in and day out. But I did really try and push hard and work my way up. I managed to get a position within the Treasury at one point, and really push through there. I was promoted 3 times in the space of a year and a half within that organisation.
So from being homeless at 14, you kicked out, you did work your way up, and you started seeing things, right, move for you.
One of the biggest examples of where I saw really dramatic movements from where I came from was at one particular time I went out after college and applied for many different organisations, so in different industries, so government, finance, in media, in all sorts of places, just to see, okay, will God really open doors? And I wanted to see this for myself. I said to God, I'm going to put applications for all these major industries in all these big companies. I want to see it. 5 contracts of offer were on the table at one time.
Really?
5. So I had a pick of where I could go. And I chose to follow the route of finance.
Yeah, great. But the thing is, you're at this stage now.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't know what to do. Well, you find yourself in a similar situation as Michael, right? Whether it's from rock bottom, whether you found yourself at a crossroads and you're stuck and you don't know what to do, whether you believe in God or not, you're going to find out what Michael did, because, as you guessed, he believed in God, but he came to a situation in his career where he needed an answer quickly. He needed an answer. Now, did God come through for him? Stay with us, because you're going to find out what God did in his life. We'll see you right after this.
Time is an illusion. There is only the now.
So now's a good time?
Oh.
She with you?
I thought she was with you.
If it's in the cinema, it's in On Screen. On Screen on MyTV. Get all the recent news updates with France 24. Watch France 24 on MyTV. Football, football and football. More football than ever. Championships and Bundesliga legends are closer than you think with Kickoff. Watch Kickoff on MyTV. Latest digital inventions, cyber concerns and much more uncovered in Shift. Everything you need to know about the modern digital world. Watch Shift on MyTV.
Welcome back to Finding Answers. Now, tonight's topic is waiting on God's timing. And my guest for this evening, Michael, mentioned about his life, how it started. He briefly mentioned how things were very hard for him from the age of 14 years old. And, you know, he worked his way up to a position which was very good, but because of life, he was now recently married, he's got bills to pay, his, you know, newly wedded wife now was studying at university, and now all the pressure was on him to get a better paying job. And you're going to find out now from him how faith helped him. Did God really come through for him at the right time? Also with me on the sofa is Pastor Carlos. Good evening, Pastor Carlos.
Hi, good evening.
Again.
Again, of course.
So before I speak to Michael, Pastor Carlos, as we mentioned before, God's timing is perfect. Mm-hmm. And it takes a level of trusting, depending on God, you know, in the right time. So, you know, things do go wrong, as Michael mentioned, but as long as that person perseveres, and we're going to hear how Michael persevered, right? He could have given up at any time.
And when we say to trust, that's the key word, because what is the meaning of trusting in God? Imagine, for example, if everything goes, you know, just the way that I want, then I don't need to trust. Because imagine everything that I decide, everything that I determine, everything that, whatever project plans that I have, everything goes well, then there's no need for me to trust. But trust steps in exactly when you are going through a hard time. Yeah. When it seems like there is no answer, the answer that you've been expecting, but that's when you have really to trust. And as a result, you need to persevere, which I believe he did.
So Michael, what actually happened? How did your faith pull through for you?
I think it's linked to what Pastor Carlos was just saying in that sort of period of having to trust. When I said before that I was applying and receiving nothing, I wasn't going in there just sitting down and doing an interviews. I did pray. I did ask for God to intervene. I did make special offerings and things like this, but nothing was happening. And I realized that it was one of the things that I had in my mind was that every time I go in, because I'm a Christian, because I believe in God, this is just already mine. There's nothing really I have to do. God's got my back, he's going to do it.
Because as you mentioned, you had 5 contracts on the table, you can pick anyone.
And
right?
I think that gave me a false sense of security, in the sense that even though God had opened that door for me, because I did my part, I used my faith a lot to get those positions. I challenged God in those moments. During this time, I was thinking, well, God gave me 5 contracts of employment before. This is just another job. It's just a new position.
Right.
It's going to be something open. I'm due to receive this one, sort of, in a way. Very bad way of thinking.
The thing is, as you said it just now.
Yeah.
The thing is, you relaxed.
Yeah.
It's like your faith. You were coasting. You're believing now in yourself and not depending on God.
Because things were so comfortable during that period of time. Obviously, the bills and things were there, but we wasn't going without. We weren't hungry. We weren't losing things. It was just the fear of knowing that when my wife goes to university and her income stops because she was working before, that suddenly this is all going to be on me. And I started to think to myself, okay, well, God's going to protect us. Don't worry. He's going to, open this door for me when I apply for the job. It didn't happen that way. So I got reminded in that situation to trust in God. So
how were you reminded? So what was that? A meeting? Was it?
Yeah. So I attended a meeting in a place of worship that I was invited to with one of my friends because she invited me years ago when I had that situation. I was 14, and I've always attended ever since, listening to the meetings and taking in the words of advice and the prayers that they would give all the time. So I attended a normal meeting that I would always attend, and one of the messages that stood out for me was to stop fearing, stop being afraid. So because of all the situations that I was facing, I had a lot of fear inside of me that things were going to...
You would think you wouldn't be afraid because look where your life was and where you've built it up with God's help.
Yeah.
So the fear, was it the fear of I could lose my home? Was that the fear?
It was, yeah, it's conflicting two sides because one part of me was thinking, this is nothing, I'm just going to apply and get the role. But when you start to see nothing was coming of it, then it starts ringing the fear in your mind, the fear that comes out of, okay, I'm going to not be able to pay these bills, I'm not going to be able to make the rent, I'm not going to be able to pay for the electricity.
Right.
That's when things get real because then that affects our livelihood in the sense of, if I can't pay the rent, I'm now evicted from my house, I've got nowhere to stay. If I can't pay for electricity, we've got no lighting or things like that. These are real fears that I'd never, well, not never, I definitely had to face when I was younger, but fears I hadn't faced for a long time.
Yeah.
And now I was up against the wall.
Yeah. So you said that key word in that message was overcome this fear.
Yeah, seriously, overcome the fear.
And that's what did you do? Because some people may be thinking, oh, you just prayed and it happened. How did you overcome that fear?
It was literally, as I was talking to you earlier on, and I was saying that for me, it was that moment of saying, okay, there's nothing more I can do. And one thing I always tell my wife is, don't be afraid of the things that you can do. Do your part, and the other bits that are left over, just leave for God. So I left it and said to her, okay, I've applied over and over again. I've done my part. I've made special prayers. I've done social purposes. I've received prayers from the place of worship that I attend. I had even gone in there and anointed all the chairs with an oil that we prayed over, that was blessed oil. But this time I said, okay, God, I'm going to leave this entirely for you. Because if you don't answer this one, the income from my wife has now stopped. This is the first month that it stopped.
So you did everything that you could do?
Did everything that I could do.
Right.
And it was this final prayer that I made to God and said, okay, now that there is absolutely nothing more I can do, I'm going to trust in you. And if this fails, then I don't know what else I've got. There's nothing else left. And that's where the heart starts to race when you're there looking at the clock, you're looking at the days counting down, you're getting no phone call, no email. And it was that final interview that I said, when I left it, I said to my wife, I don't think I've got this. I got to the final stage again. I answered all the questions and I left still telling my wife, I don't know about this one. And it was that same one that I applied for that I completely put out of my mind because I didn't think I'd got it, that called me and said to me, Michael, we've got a position for you.
Really?
Yeah.
And what was your reaction?
I was shocked. In the first few moments I didn't speak, I was just listening to what the lady was saying. She said, Michael, you've got the position. And I was like, this is exactly how I was. I was stunned into silence. And then I said, okay, I'm happy to accept. Please send through the contract as soon as possible. I wanted to sign the contract as soon as possible.
No, there's a time for everything.
Yeah.
It has to come through first.
Yeah, that's the thing. I wanted it all quickly. Even then, in that moment, I wanted it all quickly.
Yeah.
But then God reminded me again that He has things under control. That is His time, not my own. So as much as I was anxious for that call,
came to your...
In that moment when I got the phone call, you'd think that I'd be relaxed and finished.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. I reminded again, Michael, God's got special times for certain things. So when I went and to go and speak to one of my colleagues in the place I was working before, I said to her, oh, I'm about to give my notice. And she said, no. I said, why? Why shouldn't I give my notice? I've got a new job. And she was like, don't do that, because the organisation is about to offer a special settlement for those who want to leave the organisation. And the reason they was offering that was because they just merged a load of organisations together and was offering a chance for people to take a payment and leave. So I said, okay, so what does that mean? I can apply for this? She said, yep. So I put in an application for that settlement as well as signing the contract for the new place. So when I left all of that, I ended up with a new job, with a higher salary, with a better position in a company that I really fought for. Mm-hmm. And I left with a settlement offer that managed to clear off all the debts and give us money to save for a new house. All in God's timing.
There you go. I can't say any more than that, right? Now imagine if you left before. Imagine if there was another offer and you took it, you would probably still be in debt. Yep. It wouldn't be the salary that you would have wanted originally. But as we said, in God's timing, everything is perfect. Yeah. And when did it sink in that everything, it's like the piece of the puzzle all fitted into place? When did you realize that?
As soon as that settlement contract was signed, I sat back and said, okay, the employment contract is signed, the settlement offer contract is signed, these are all locked in. I sat down with my wife and said, you know what, this is incredible. There's no other way to explain this other than God knew what time he was going to open this door for me. Yeah. As anxious as I was throughout the entire year that I'd been applying, he closed every single one of those doors, or not even closed, didn't open those doors for me because he said, wait, I have something better for you. Yeah. He knew that he was going to open up a facility to clear my debts. He knew that he was going to give me the position when I needed it, not necessarily when I wanted it. Yeah. And that by the end of it, my wife could go to university comfortably without stressing about money. I can take care of her the way I'm supposed to be. And not only that, we had a dream to save to buy our own house. We now have the ability to do so.
Great. You see how things work out. Pastor Carlos.
And this is wonderful, to see a dream coming true. And I can imagine, for example, when he finally sees everything, in place, God surprising him. And I can imagine the thoughts that come. For example, why did I fear? Why was I afraid? Exactly. Why did I doubt? Because, that's how a human being is, because God has a time for everything.
And the thing is, you've learned from this. Mm-hmm. And maybe in a few years' time, you're going to take that next step. But you will learn from this.
Oh, I learned a huge lesson from this.
And this is what God does. He makes us go through certain situations to learn from them. Mm-hmm. Trust him, depend on him, right? Exactly. But learn from it, because next time we'll know that he'll pull through for us.
Because one thing is, is for us to teach about trusting in God. But we really get to trust in him when we go through situations like these and we overcome. Yeah. We persevere.
Yeah. Michael, I'd like to thank you for coming and sharing your story with us, right?
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm sure it's going to help many other people who are struggling, who are asking, God, where are you? All right? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
After the break, myself and Pastor Carlos, we will be exploring more about Michael's story, especially with you. If you are facing a crisis right now, you are giving up on believing in God because something hasn't come through, right? Stay with us, because God, he hasn't ignored you. All right? We'll see you right after this break.
The matters of the heart are the most bothersome.
We like to explore in details what people have been through, what couples have been through, so that we can highlight some points.
Learn to love intelligently. Watch Love Talk on MyTV. Meet the amazing SUV Jaguar, the stylish Fiat, a vintage VW, a sporty Honda, and the green smart ED. Drive it, test it, know it. We have cars for any taste. Explore vehicles and their features with our weekly show. Watch Drive It on MyTV.
do the maths. Changing your life is not as simple as changing your hairstyle, your shirt, or rearranging the furniture in your living room. You're talking about years of deep-rooted habits, behaviours and problems that are not going to change overnight. Many may say, think positively, but the trouble with that is that you can't do or change anything with just thoughts. But add action into the equation and the outcome can be different. Let's do the maths. Positive thinking plus action equals a change. Whatever it is, if the change is significant, if it's worthwhile, then it will have to take time, effort and homework from you.
Latest digital inventions, cyber concerns and much more uncovered in Shift. Everything you need to know about the modern digital world. Watch Shift on MyTV. Football, football and football. More football than ever. Championships and Bundesliga legends are closer than you think with Kickoff. Watch Kickoff on MyTV. Watch The Chrissy B Show on MyTV.
Well, my life before was an absolute mess. You know, before finding faith, I grew up in an environment that was very drug and crime related. So everything that I saw and the people that I dealt with, my mum, my family, were all heavily involved in that life. And it sort of was the only life that I knew. Even though that's not what I wanted, I knew that's never what the road that I wanted to take, but it was the only one I knew. The worst moment of my life, I could say, was when my mum started losing her clients, her contacts, and so consequently she started losing a lot of money. And it became so bad to the point where we couldn't even afford to buy milk. We were going to my grandma's house for food. It was disastrous, and I was not used to that. You know, I grew up being the girl that would always be after school buying everyone sweets because I had loads of money, you know. Money wasn't a problem for me then, but then at this point everything became scarce, no money for anything, so that was the lowest point. After finding faith, me, my mom and my sister, we really learned how to use it to our advantage. So we used it to find like where my mom was really heavily reliant on the income of her criminal life and stuff like that. She learned how to use faith to get a job, to start the school, which she stopped so many years ago. And things started moving forward. She got a job, she got a really good job, she used her faith in that. And same with us, we used our faith in our careers in school. And then now it's a lot different. My life today is brilliant, you know. I have hope, I have prospects, I have a future, I'm getting married soon, I have a good job. I no longer rely on sort of the criminal activities of my family to support me. I'm supporting myself. And it's such a contrast and different to the life that I had before, where it was really criminal based, so much wrong and negativity, as opposed to today, really positive, moving forward and really looking forward to the future.
Welcome back to Finding Answers. Now, if you were with us throughout this program, Michael's story was amazing. Just another example of God and his timing, which is perfect. Right, Pastor Carlos?
Definitely. Everything, you know, fell into its place according to God's time.
Yeah.
Even though he was anxious, of course, this is what happens to a lot of people. They get anxious. But, you know, through his testimony, we learn lessons. He learned lessons,
yeah,
right? Because like I even said after his testimony, I'm sure that came questions to his mind. Why did I fear? Why, you know, was I afraid of? Why did I doubt? Because just as God promised, you know, as he did his part, And this is what people need to understand. If we do our part, God will do his part.
Sometimes you're convinced in your mind that, you know, God is not there for me. This is not meant to be for me. And if you believe in God, right, and you've been praying, whether you've been worrying or anxious or not, but God has seen the heart, your heart, right, that you do believe, then sometimes your now is not God's now. As we said, we mentioned before, there's a time for everything. If it comes before, you will not learn certain lessons in life. Mm-hmm. And God wants to teach his children, right? Those who believe in him, those who trust in him, this important lesson, not there and then, but afterwards, right? He wants to show to you that he is faithful to what he said.
And it makes us much stronger, right? More experienced, you know, people in our relationship with God. For example, when I look at my life, when we look at our lives, our ministry today, who we are today, we are much stronger Christians because of what we have, because of, you know, the obstacles, the difficulties that we have gone through, and of course we remained, we persevered, even though we didn't see, you know, the answer that we wanted, that our flesh wanted at that very moment, but we knew that God was in control.
So, you know, the Bible says that our thoughts are not like God's thoughts. God knows everything. He sees the bigger picture, right? He sees everything in this world, what's going on. So sometimes what we ask for, what we pray for, it might be a personal desire, but that personal desire may even harm you later on, and God knows that. So that's where Pastor Carlos mentioned in the program that we must trust. Trust that the right answer will come. Maybe it's not what we want, but when God's answer comes, it's actually better than what we were asking for.
Of course. And let's not forget, Pastor Michael, that the God of the Bible, the God whom we serve, the God, you know, you have seen changing people's lives. All these people who come here to the Finding Answers programs are people who have used their faith in the God of Abraham, Isaac, Israel. And why these three characters from the Bible, these three men? Because these men, they went through a lot. Take, for instance, Abraham. How long he had to wait to see the actual blessing, the fulfillment of God's promises, right? To come to pass, I mean, to be materialized in his life.
He wanted a son, right?
Exactly, it took time.
And, you know, maybe this is your case. Maybe you've been praying and you've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And then, as Michael, what happened with Michael? You start looking internally at yourself. There's something wrong with me. Maybe my faith is not strong enough. God, are you punishing me? Are you actually there for me? But if you are patient, if you trust, then the answer that comes will be much better. Michael never expected that settlement money to come at that time and pay off all the debts so that he can provide for his wife and get the job that he wanted. But you see, when you believe and you trust in God, everything will fall into place. All the pieces of the puzzle will fall into place and you will see the bigger picture.
And what happens as well, sorry to interrupt, Pastor Michael, but of course that in difficult times like this, it's the time, let's say, is the time, that perfect time for negativity to step in, right? Yes. To start working, obviously, working in people's minds. It helped to us, it helped to you, it helped, I mean, it happens to all of us when we had negative thoughts, when doubts came, but we had to overcome.
Yes.
We had to prove that the Word of God is true by trusting, by persevering, by, you know, persevering according to His words.
Now, enough talking from us. We want to pray. We're going to pray now. And if you want this prayer, as we do, we pray at the cross. When Jesus came to the earth to die for us, it was at the right time. It wasn't sooner, it wasn't later, at the right time. And it's your chance now to believe in what Jesus did on the cross for you, so that you don't have to suffer anymore. Will you go through problems? Yes, Michael did. We have done, and we will continue. But knowing what Jesus did at the cross for us, we can overcome every single hurdle and obstacle that comes our way. So, it's time for prayer.
Prepare now for the moment of prayer. If you would like us to make a prayer concerning your family and loved ones, send your name and prayer request to help@findinganswers.tv.
My Lord and my God, in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, we join our faith together with all the viewers, my Lord, who have heard and seen Michael's testimony. People who have been anxious for an answer in their health, an answer for their family, an answer in, my Lord, a career decision that they need to make. How many people have prayed for a certain thing to happen and they've been waiting for a long time, my God, and maybe that answer, my Lord, hasn't come yet because it's not the right time. It's not in your time, my God. And Lord, maybe this person is pushing for an answer, and to the point that they even get angry at you. They get desperate, my Lord. They even say, I will never believe in you anymore. My God, your time is perfect. You even allow things not to happen because you see it's to our detriment. You see it will harm us in the long term. And so you are a loving Father. What loving father would give to their child something that would harm them? Wouldn't that father protect their child? And so if you see all things, which you do, then you protect those who believe, those who trust in you, those who use their faith. It's a choice, my Lord, but it's something that when we do it, we will reap the benefits. We will see the answer in the right time. So I pray, my God, no matter the request of this person, no matter what they've asked for, help them, my God. Remove this anxiety. Remove, my God, this fear, this doubt from their minds. And my God, as we said, your time is perfect. So when the right time is for you to bless them, let it happen, my God. I pray that this person will have a perseverance spirit to, my Lord, continue praying and not be anxious anymore, as you have taught us in your word. My God, Father, our Lord, our Savior, the one whose time is perfect, I ask you to visit this person now and, Lord, convince them by your Spirit, my Lord, that you are there for them, that you love them, and the right answer will come. Receive now a peace, God's peace, not the peace of the world, which is false and temporary, but God's peace, God's assurance inside of you that the answer will come. Just be patient and persevere. This is our prayer, my Lord, in the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. So, there you have it, all right? God will work in the right time. He wants the best for me and also for you, okay? Until the next time, have a wonderful evening. We'll see you on the next Finding Answers. Bye-bye.
This program is brought to you by UCKG.